So if you log into Moodle, you're not going to see the full class because I don't want to show you the full class. I want to show you the class week by week. So since this is syllabus day week, you only get the first week. That's why it tells you it's not available. I'm not ready for you to see it yet. Important information. In addition to the syllabus, which if I have to change it, I will update it and let you know. I always email students and then actually change it. So let's say hurricane comes through, we cancel a week of class. I got to do something about that. I change the syllabus. I let you know via email, and then I update the one online. Academic integrity code. Unfortunately for you, before I became department chair, I spent 3 years as the academic integrity officer for the university, which means I know why we have those blue signs in every classroom. Basically, you cheat in my class, you fail my class. But of course, I know the process backwards and forwards, so I want to make sure you have a copy of the code. We'll go over that a little bit more when we do the syllabus. Contacting me. I just used the mouse for the other computer. All right. The best way to get a hold of me is via email. Email goes to my phone, goes to my computer. I get probably 50 emails a day, so I'm always on it. If you're here on campus, you can give me a call. Actually, you don't have to be on campus to do that. If you're here on campus, you can stop by my office, which is upstairs in 340. You can give me a call on my phone because I'm at my desk when I'm not in a classroom. If you do call me, though, leave a message because I hate it when people call and then they're like, oh, I wanted to talk to you, but it's not important enough to leave a message. And so I have this like missed call indicator. Like, who's this person? What did they want? Should I call them back? Should I not call them back? So if you're calling me for something, leave a message. Guess what? You leave me a voicemail, it goes to my cell phone. It gets emailed to me as an attachment, so I will hear from you. It's also handy if you don't want to write out that very long email. You can just give me a call and leave a voicemail. So my office is upstairs in 340. I have office hours regularly scheduled on Mondays and Wednesdays from 9 to 11 a.m. If you need to, I have Skype, because again, we have an online format. You can Skype if you want, if you really need to see me in person. And if all of that doesn't work, you should feel free to say, I need an appointment. And then we'll try to find a time to meet outside of office hours. If you email me and don't hear back from me within a day, send it again. That's okay. I won't get annoyed, I promise. I get like 60 emails a day. 61's not going to bother me. But I don't want you to think that I'm ignoring you. So give it a day, just 24 hours, and then go ahead and send the message again. And that way I'll know, oh, I really need to get back to Greg. Okay? So that's how you get a hold of me. Any questions about any of that? Okay. Moving on. What is this class? Well, I wanted to design this class to do two goals. One is to satisfy core curriculum. So you're here because most likely you have to take a math class and you really don't like calculus because you don't understand why we got to find the point of a curve. Like, what's the point? It's just a curve. And I wanted to teach this class because I think statistics are probably one of the least understood and most important things that happen in math. Because statistics can be used as a tool, and you'll be smarter if you have more tools that you're available to you. So we're going to use statistics to solve very simple questions in social science. Now, what is social science? Well, I can tell you what it's not. It's not the eclipse. That's hard science. That's like trying to map where a giant rock outside of our sky is going to be tomorrow. I don't understand how they do that. And they could do that before there were computers, by the way. I mean, it took a lot to write out, but they had the stuff figured out. It's not just an invention of computers, like, oh, now we know where the moon's going to be in 2024. They actually knew how to do that a long time ago, before computers. It's not a hard science. It's not what I would call a deterministic science, one where we know where the moon's going to be on a date, at a time, 7 years in the future. That's deterministic. That's the idea that you know what is going to happen because the objects involved follow a set of laws. Human beings are the opposite of the moon. I have no idea what the hell you guys are going to do on any given day, at any given time. Where you're going to be, what behavior you're going to exhibit, no clue at all. If I had to guess, I would have been like, my class is going to be here at 10:50 and not walk in at 11:04. But look, human beings do that. Thanks for the example, by the way. All right? You're not deterministic. But what we need to do is we need to understand human behavior. And that's what this class is designed to do. We're going to use statistics to understand human behavior, whether that's public opinion or voting, public policy, or whatever all you public health nerds are interested in. Because there's a bunch of you in here, right? Like, why do people smoke? I don't know, because it's cool. And the camel tells me to do it. All right? Whatever you're interested in human behavior, that's what you're going to focus on in the class. I'm interested in why do people vote the way they do. You might be interested in, I don't know, perceptions of messaging in public service announcements. Okay, we can do that too. And what we'll do is we'll learn the math that allows us to reach conclusions based upon a hypothesis that we test. So we're going to veer towards the science part, but it's a social science, a softer science, not a hard science. Not physics or chemistry or biology or earth science or astronomy. It's more like political science, public health, sociology, anthropology, although all those people are dead, criminology. That's what we're going to study. Now the rest of the first page is taken up by learning outcomes that I have to put there because the university tells me so. You'll notice the last couple are about the core. At the end of the class, if I've done my job, you'll meet these student learning outcomes. You'll be able to demonstrate knowledge of fundamental mathematical concepts. Sure. Demonstrate the ability to use quantitative skills to solve problems. Absolutely. And some other stuff too. Okay? Any questions about what the class is or is not? Before I go on about, attendance and grades and all that, who in here thinks they are bad at math? No, it's not. Who in here is math phobic? Like you're taking this class to avoid harder math? Maybe. Y'all are wrong. Math isn't hard. You already have all the math skills you need in life. And there's nothing to be afraid of. Math is not like going to eat you or kill you. Well, it could, but it's not going to. All right. This here is from the end of the semester. Is anybody here scared by that? Why? Doesn't make sense. Okay. Is there anything in there that you recognize? Math adjacent. There's numbers. That's good, right? We like numbers. Numbers in math are good. And what's bad? Letters. Why letters? Right? This is math. This is why we learn to count to 100 without using our toes. Okay, so you see, there's a couple of numbers there. What's this 2? Anybody know the fancy math name for that 2? It's a square, but it's actually an exponent. See, you know this stuff. Okay? What else do you see that you recognize? There's some sort of division. How is there division? What do we call that thing? It's a fraction. Okay, so we got exponents and fractions. What else do we see? We see an equal sign, our good friend. Anything else? There's a couple more. There's a what? Holy shit, you know the sum function. What is that letter? It's a sigma, right? Not only are we going to use letters, but we'll use foreign letters. Okay? So the sigma is a summation function, which fancy word for doing what? Adding. So we got addition, subtraction, division, and where do we see the multiplication? That's it. If you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, you can do this. Here's our addition, here's our subtraction, here's our multiplication, here's our division. Add, subtract, multiply, divide. Do you know when you guys learned how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide? Not first, more like third. I think third grade's about when you hit division. Okay, unless you're from up north, then you can say second grade. Because everything's so much faster up north. Okay, you had these exact skills in second or third grade. So what have you been doing with them? Balancing your checkbook, addition and subtraction, figuring out how to split the rent 3 ways, division. Okay? You use it a lot, so there's no need to be afraid of it at all. That's the scariest thing I can throw up to you. Well, I actually got another thing that's really scary, but it's the same thing as this. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Like, that's it. The exponent in there, you're like, wait a minute. No, it's just multiplication. You're just taking a number and multiplying it by itself if it's squared. All right, that's it. That's the hardest math you guys will have in here all semester long. And you can already do it, right? Right? I know, Doug's kind of freaked out right now. When did you get back from Amsterdam, Doug? Okay, you should be clean by now. Right? You can do this, right, Doug? All right? So you can all accomplish what you need to in this class. This is the last week's lecture slide. Like I said, I got a scarier one, but it's first day. We'll get to that. I need you to build up your confidence a little bit. This is the way that I approach statistics. And I got a little bit of a story to tell. So, I'm the chair of the Department of Politics. And whenever I talk to students, they're like, oh, well, why are you interested in political science? And it's usually, oh, well, you know, I want to work in public service, or work for the government, or go to law school, or I want to kill people. And it's like, okay, but why political science? And they're like, oh, well, you know, I'm really not good at math. I'm just like, oh, man. Yeah, you are, because you have math skills. You just don't know how to use them right. And so they ignore like the science part in the political science. Like they think we're just kind of science. Like we're mocking ourselves by including that in the name of our discipline. So I was good at math in school. Like I did the pre-calc thing, and that's when they lost me. Why do I care about this curve? Like why do I need to graph this function? We have computers for that. What's the skill that I'm learning here by integrating this equation? And what I found is that calculus to me was useless. Now, don't say that to a physicist, because they're like, that's how we know where the moon's going to be tomorrow. They need that, because they need to be able to trace the orbits aren't exactly circular, they're kind of curvy, right? They need calculus, but I didn't need calculus. So as an undergrad, I did the political science thing, learned a lot about government, still was able to get away from the math. Even though I was good at it, didn't do statistics as an undergrad in the program I was in. Then I went to graduate school. And when you go to graduate school, that's when the science part in political science really kicked in. Like, you couldn't ignore it anymore. You couldn't pretend you were in like a department of government. Like, you were in political science. And if you wanted to publish articles and you wanted to test a hypothesis and if you wanted to say something, you had to have evidence. So I was really at a disadvantage in graduate school because even though I was good at math and math didn't scare me at all, I didn't realize what I could do with statistics until I got there and had to start using it. So I started a little bit behind. And one of the things that helped me in my graduate training was going to what we affectionately refer to as math camp. There's a program at the it's housed at the University of Michigan, scum, and at U of M, it's called the Inter-University Consortium of Political and Social Research. And the goal of the ICPSR is to train people to teach statistics, not to learn statistics, but to teach it. So the goal in me going to ICPSR was that I would learn how to teach statistics like this. And by the way, if you got to teach it, you got to learn it. So I go to ICPSR, and they have these long 3-hour classes. And most time that you're there, it's a 4-week session. You take one class in the morning, you take one class in the afternoon, and you learn for that 4-week period how to do some sort of topic, whether it's regression analysis or maximum likelihood estimation or simultaneous equations models. Like, you get full on your math nerd self going on at ICPSR. And then for fun, at lunch, you had these little 1-hour things, and they would last a week or 2 weeks. And one year I stupidly sat in on the how to teach calculus one. Because I'm thinking, well, if I go, I might actually learn why I need to integrate something or draw a curve. I didn't learn that. But I did learn a very valuable lesson from a professor by the name of Jim Dowdy. And Jim's retired now. And Jim was, I am convinced, the best calculus teacher in the world. And that's why he was at ICPSR, to teach us calculus. And Jim told a story. And it's pretty much how I teach stats. And so Jim was an old guy. And if he told you a story, you believed it. And so he was telling us this story about, in World War II, how the Army tried to recruit code breakers. And you're like, World War II, that's kind of cool. All right, let's hear the story, Jim. And he tells the story of the test to figure out if you're going to get training as a code breaker. Now, I don't know if he made this up. I don't care. It's a cool story. So the test involved getting a bunch of soldiers together. And in my mind, I'm thinking that scene from Men in Black, where Will Smith walks into the room and he's in his street clothes and there's like an Army guy, an Air Force guy, a Navy guy, and he's like, what am I doing here? And then they go in and they shoot aliens, and Will Smith points out that the little girl shouldn't have the calculus book, and of course he's the only one that passes the test. That's the scene I got going in my head. So Dowdy, back to the code breaker thing, is talking about how they devised this test. And the first day of the test, was demonstrating that you knew how to boil water. That was your task for the day, boil water. So you walk into a room, there's a bucket of water on the floor, there's a pot on the counter, and there's a stove against the wall. Now, would somebody like to explain to me how to boil water in that room? A Greg, or a Gregory. How would you boil water? Put water in the pan. Okay, put water in the pan. Then what? Pan on the stove. Turn the stove on. Wait. Don't look at it because it takes longer if you watch it. Can we all agree that that would be a great plan for boiling water? Gregory, you passed. You get to come back tomorrow for the next test. Come back tomorrow for the next test. You'll get into the room. On the counter, there's a bucket of water, a pot, and over in the corner is a stove. Task is to boil water. What's the first step? You failed. You can't put the water in the pot. What do you do first? First thing you do to boil water is you put the bucket on the floor. Why do you put the bucket on the floor? This is because that's what it was the day before. And what happened the day before? You passed the test. Okay? Dowdy says math is like that test. And you just have to recognize when to put the bucket on the floor. I'm going to say that about 50 times this semester, and you're going to get annoyed at it because it's a great catchphrase. Greg, is that bucket on the floor? What does that mean? Well, you walked into the room on the second day, you knew how to perform the same exact task, boiling water, but you did it differently. And you might have ended up with the same result. But if you did that, you wouldn't know for sure. But your experience tells you that if the bucket's on the floor, you pick up the bucket, you pour it in the pot, you put the pot on the stove, you turn the stove on, you boil water. So if that's what you know to be successful, why don't you just do that the next day? Math is bucket on the floor. What is 2 plus 3? Thank you. You know how to do that, right? So if 2 plus 3 is 5, go away. Okay. How do we handle something like this? That's a summation sign. We have to take the sum of every individual line of I, where you take x minus x bar and multiply that product, or multiply that by y minus y bar. So if I want to bucket on the floor this one line, what's the simplest thing to do first? You do what's in the parentheses, right? You should have a flashback to probably middle school, where you learned order of operations, PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. It tells you the order in which to do stuff. And the first thing you do is whatever's in the parentheses, right? So you do this first. You know how to subtract one number from another one, right? You do this part second. Again, subtracting one number from another. What's the next thing you do? Right? We don't have any exponents in this line. That's in the bottom. The next thing is to multiply. What are we going to multiply? Step 3 is 1 times 2, right? What's step 4? Add all 3's. So what this would look like if we were talking about a data set is you'd have your x, you'd have your y, you'd have your x bar, which I have to teach you what that means. You have your y bar, you have your x minus x bar, you have your y minus y bar, and then you have your product, just step 3. And then down here, when you do the summation, you add them all together and get number 4. Really, that's all it is. So you have the math skills, you just have to learn how to put the bucket on the floor. How to take something that looks complicated and simplify it in a way so that you're comfortable that you know you'll be able to get the outcome, which is to boil water. Anybody's mind blown for the day? Doug, just give me a nod. Doug's mind's blown. So if anybody thank you. If anybody in here was like, I can't do this because it's math, well, you're wrong. You can do it. You absolutely can do it. And you might have also learned how to boil water today. You got to get yourself a bucket. Okay? So that's as hard as the math is going to get in this class. That's it. Now, learning what the hell B1 is, that's the statistics part. But actually, you've already learned this when you did not geography, the other one, geometry. That's a line. B is just the slope of a line. Y equals mx plus b. We're just going to change all the letters around. Put the bucket on the floor. Okay. Okay. So that's what you're going to do in this class. While you're here, remember, a good chunk of this class is going to be on Moodle. So standard boilerplate about being able to access Moodle, play videos. If you're not clear on what Moodle is or you don't know how to use it, come hang out in my office, I'll show you. They have Moodle training sessions. One of the things that people often have an issue with is that Moodle wants to open a new window sometimes. And if you have a pop-up blocker installed, you'll just keep clicking and nothing will happen. So you might actually have to make Moodle whitelisted on that. Okay. Next part, student responsibilities. Well, again, I was the academic integrity officer. I saw ways in which students just stupidly cheated in their classes. I've got way more training in this than you do. So I'm going to make it very simple. All work you do in this class is yours and yours alone. That's my expectation. Okay? Your paper, you wrote it. Your test, you take it. Your online quizzes, you take yourself. Not in a freaking study group in the library, because I can track the times that you guys did it and your IP addresses. I know these things. Okay? So you're just going to do it yourself. You want to have a little group to go over studying? Fine by me. Feel free to invite me. I might show up. You never know. But I expect everything you do to earn a grade to be yours and yours alone. And if it's not, you failed my class. No 0 on an assignment. No, I'm going to redo it. You just get an FX. You're done. Something in here about digital etiquette. Basically, don't be mean on the web boards if you use that. Try not to threaten anybody. Instructor responsibilities. My main responsibility is to be available to you, which, quite frankly, is kind of hard when I'm department chair because I have meetings to go to and people to sit and listen to. If I have to change something, I will let you know. If I have to cancel class, I will let you know. If I have to redirect my office hours, I will let you know. Usually grading, you got to give me a week. And I welcome your feedback. If something's not working for you or you think I'm doing something wrong, I'd like to hear about it. Well, one more thing about my responsibilities. I'm also dad. And so I've got 2 kids. Abby's going to be in 2nd grade. She's 8. John's 4. He might turn out to be 5. We'll see. It's a little touch and go with John. He's my walking brain injury. John's in daycare still, another year, paying every week. So kids get sick, I got to handle Tuesdays and Thursdays. Kids get sick, my wife handles Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's just a thing. So again, I can redirect class, I can put a video online for you to watch, I can do something. So just want to let you know that that's a possibility. Course text. You only have one book. that you have to buy, and that's this one, the blue one. This is Takunda. It's a stats textbook. They're all the same. I like this one because it doesn't give you more than you need to know, which is really a thing in stats textbooks. There are two types. Ones that give you everything that could ever possibly happen and you have no idea what to use in which situation. And then there's this one that says, hey, just do this. Okay, it's not a bad book. The other thing I like about it is that in Moodle, I've given a link to a student's resources page. And they have it like by chapter, all sorts of resources. You do, well, so action plan, learning objectives, e-flashcards, quizzes, web resources, all sorts of stuff. Also, the other thing I like about this book is that it's not based on a statistical software package. So remember the glorious computers that we use to tell us where the moon's going to be tomorrow? You can do statistics by hand. In fact, that's the best way to do it. That's the best way to learn it and get comfortable with it. So for this introductory class, I'm not going to give you software that says, well, you do this and you type this button and then you magically get the result. Because you don't know how you got it or where it came from. So that's the other nice thing about Takunga, whatever it is. Takunga. There's no software involved, so it's just a strict math book. I've put a second book at the bookstore called Thinking Like a Political Scientist. If you're not a political scientist, you might not want to buy this book. But what it does is it's small, it's not very expensive. It gets you in the framework of understanding how to use statistics to answer research questions. And so this is one of those things like, yeah, if you got an extra 20 bucks or however much it costs, go ahead and buy it. I'm not going to base the class off of it. I might mention it, or I might maybe copy a chapter or two and put it up on Moodle. But if you are a political science student, yeah, you should probably buy this because it'll help you with POLI 200 and it'll help you with your upper level classes. But it's just kind of a recommended. I wanted you to see that it existed and maybe buy it using your financial aid. All right, so that's it for the books. Yes, you have to buy the book. All of the section exercises and all of the exams are based off of the content from the book. And if you don't have the book, you're not going to do well. Okay, class assignments. I've divided the class up into 12 sections, 6 before the midterm and 6 after. At the end of every section, which is essentially a week, I'm going to ask you to take a little quiz, about 10 questions online, to make sure that you understand what we did this week. That's worth 30% of your grade. We will have a midterm exam. That'll be worth 15% of your grade. You will write a course paper because you have to show me that you can ask and answer a research question using statistics. I will help you. I will show you where to get the data. I will show you how to do the math. That's the point of the class. That's 30%. And then, of course, a final exam. Unfortunately for you all, this class period is the absolutely last day of the final exam period, December 14th. You are now on notice that you will be here on December 14th. So tell Mom not to buy that plane ticket back to New Jersey before the 14th. Okay? Oh, and I don't take late assignments. It's all like turned in. It's all on Moodle. It's all timed out. You'll do it on time. Okay. Grades. This is what grades look like. The numbers and letters and grade points. Pretty standard. I don't want to hear complaining that a 90 is a B+. You were all forewarned. If you need a 90 to be an A, drop this class, find somebody else's. You will get a midterm grade. Those are unofficial, mostly to help out people in their core classes, to let them know if they should drop. It's all on Moodle, so you'll see what your grade is at that point, at that time. Okay? Section exercises, I talked to you. The first 6 will be due before the midterm. The second 6 will be due before the end of the class. 2 exams. Exams are not open book, but I do believe in giving you things like an equation sheet, because no statistician ever operates without access to their library. Like, this just doesn't happen. So why should I force some non-real world constraint on you? Like, you should be able to use a calculator and like have access to equations. I don't necessarily want the book where it says step 1 is to do this, step 2 is to do that, but you should at least have the equations in front of you. Paper will be short, about 8 pages. The whole idea behind the paper is for you to display that you can do something with statistics other than add, subtract, multiply, divide, which we've covered you already know how to do. Attendance, you'll notice I don't have anything in your grade that is attendance based. I really want to avoid the emails where you tell me what's coming out of your body at any given time, because those are gross, and I'm not a real doctor. Fake doctor, not a real one. Okay? So I purposely do not put attendance as part of your grade, because again, I have to be here. I don't care if you're here. Like, I know that sounds mean, but I really don't. Just go get your car fixed. Go to Grandpa's funeral. Do whatever you got to do. Keep me out of it. Keep your green stuff at home. All right? But you do got to like show up the most of the time, because there's a university policy that says you should be here at least 75% of the time. Okay? Bunch of links to support stuff. We do a ton of this at this university. The thing I'll highlight is accessibility and disability services. If you require extended time, quiet testing place, anything because of an identified personal, I guess we're still using the word disability, it's on you at the college level to go talk to them, and they'll decide what accommodations you get. This isn't like high school where everybody sits down and comes up with a plan for you. This is on you. I will say, if you think that, oh, I'm in college now, I'm going to tough it out, yeah, that's not a good idea. You should go talk to them. So if you had an IEP in high school, you should really go talk to them. And then we've also got a bunch of other assistance centers on campus. The Learning Assistance Center also has the math lab. I think they've called it something new, but that's the place you can go for the Writing Center and the Foreign Language Instruction Center. We do actually have a library on campus. If you're having sleep issues, talk to Counseling Services, because I'm not a real doctor. So here's our schedule. Page 5. Add drop ends this Saturday. So you got this week to figure out if you're going to take the class or not. After that, you will have a W on your transcript. It doesn't really hurt you, but it doesn't look good if you got like a string of W's on your transcript, because they don't know if you just dropped it after the first week or right before the drop date. Okay? So it could be a signal that you're having issues in your classes. If you want to drop, feel free to talk to me first if you have concerns after today. I can let you know whether or not you really should be afraid or not. First 6 sections before the midterm, you'll have to do the exercises online. We follow the textbook 1 through 6. After the midterm, I like to mix things up, because there's a couple things that he teaches you that you don't really need. So towards the end, we flip-flop a couple of chapters, but 6 more sections, and then a final exam. Being a Tuesday-Thursday class, I don't have to worry about Labor Day. I don't have to worry about the fake student holiday. It's actually something else. And we all get a week off for Thanksgiving anyways. And while you might think it's acceptable to leave the Friday before the Thanksgiving break, it's not acceptable to leave the Thursday before Thanksgiving break. It doesn't matter, because you guys are in the Tuesday class. All right? There is an extra Tuesday here at the end. We'll see what we need to do that. Because again, classes end on a Wednesday. Thursday people don't have anything. Wouldn't be fair to give you something and not them. But maybe I'll just have open office hours or review on that day. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the syllabus. Remember, bucket on the floor. It's not going to be that hard. Okay? So do me a favor. Go ahead and get the book if you haven't gotten it yet.